as much as I've had support, I've had some not very nice emails that have come through that want me to die and want my kids to die. So obviously, that's not pleasant to receive. The challenge for me now is, okay, how do I conduct myself? That's what I always turn around to. The higher you go, the more pressure you have on how you are as a person. I want to succeed here. There is this nonsense that I don't care. Where does that come from? Where's your evidence on that? Why am I starting off this video by discussing direct quotes from Graham Potter? Well, late last night, it has been revealed by our manager himself that with all the pressure and criticism and hate around him, this has now turned and been directed to his family and his loved ones. He has received death threats through emails, quite a few of them. And I'd like to say that this is a massive shock and a surprise, but I gotta keep things brutally honest. I'm one of those guys that likes to say it how it is, yeah? I'm really not surprised by this. I'm really not surprised. Now, already, you're gonna get some naysayers trying to quickly calculate reasons to counterpoint what Graham Potter is saying. Listen, it's PR, no? Like, why is it coming out right now before the Spurs game? I'm gonna play this clip for you guys, and here's what Potter had to say about the death threats that himself, his family and his kids have been receiving.
You just have to put it aside, and thankfully it's an isolated incident and it could come from anywhere, and it's just one of those things. It's part of...
It's not though. Well, did it not rock you?
It's just a throwaway line, I think. I don't give it any more weight than that, but it's not pleasant. It's not pleasant for the family. You know, you accept the criticism, you accept, you know, if you lose a game, you accept to be booed, you accept the, whatever comes your way, absolutely. But of course there's a line, but I wouldn't be the first person in life where the line's been crossed, and maybe in that instance it was crossed.
Now, as I said earlier, I ain't surprised by any of this one bit. Let's keep things real. This is how things are done in 2022. We've been seeing escalations of hate and vitriol and online abuse growing year in, year out. And for me, it's just like sums up what the internet age and era has done to discourse, to conversations. Listen, you want me to say my shit, yeah? For me, this is a direct consequence of how algorithms incessantly go for reaction, go for clicks. And they realize that reactionary hate is a thing that fuels attention, fuels impressions, fuels clicks, fuels all these details. This is how the world operates today. And the consequence of this strategy is that it's made people become a lot more hostile over the most pettiest and silliest of things. Like, you know what I think to myself sometimes, yeah? Like, this sport is a funny sport when you actually deep football, yeah? There's a lot of guys who've got great jobs, got great degrees, got a lot of intellect. But for some reason, I do not know what it is about the sport in particular, but very smart people can become very dumb, very hateful, very myopic with their thoughts and opinions when things ain't going the way they want with their football club. I mean, that baffles me. And for me, yeah, it's been this incessant blurring of the lines between criticism and hate. And it's starting to piss me off a lot now, because some of it's becoming a bit disingenuous and very anti-intellectual, and I just need to say that I'm sick and tired of it. Don't pretend that you can't criticize the manager like all of us haven't been doing that. The difference is some people stop the criticism with the football and they move on with their lives. But for other people, and I'm calling these guys the Chelsea extremists, where I'm gonna sound rude, but fuck it. The guys that don't respect how the game works, they don't respect the strings and ropes that go behind getting wins at this level, the details that go behind clubs becoming successful. They constantly turn to the most basic arguments of excuses whenever it's information they don't personally agree with. And this constant conflation is really annoying me, because I'm sorry, understanding something doesn't equal excuses. We're not 10 years old, yeah? We're grown men. A lot of us are older. We're too smart to be thinking this simple, yeah? Because now what these guys do is that the criticism, it gets blurred, and it always turns to hate. It always turns to personal attacks. It always turns to slander, and it quickly becomes things that have nothing to do with the football. And you see how this hate is just spread year in, year out, constantly all the time. And honestly, it's getting a bit frustrating. Like, these silly divides get created where like people constantly miss the point of everyone can criticize, and the real line should be about where you end with your criticism. Because every single time you cross that line and make it more personal and try and validate your feelings by throwing personal attacks, you're just fueling the hate. You're fueling the hate. And what that does is that you end up validating a few crazy guys here. A few crazy guys that deep down think that they're the heroes in their own movie. They're the heroes that's doing the right thing. They're speaking out the truth. They're saying the things that people are too scared to see because they've told themselves that everyone sees everything from their perspective and their point of view. So that's why they'll do madness like, I mean, deep it. How the hell are you finding Graham Potter's email? Listen, I'd love to know what it is so I can send some love and support his way. I don't know how you're doing that, but that is the type of shit that hate can do, that can fuel this type of creativity, yeah? That can get you going down rabbit holes to even find ways to contact the manager to send all your hate that you feel deep down is justified. And I'm sorry, I'm totally against this. I've been seeing a lot of big accounts on socials, on YouTube, etc., constantly going down this extremist point of view of constantly micro attacks, microaggressions, constant criticism for anything and everything. You're just fueling this unnecessary, silly divide where deep down, yeah, everyone wants this club to win. You need to understand that. Everyone wants this club to win. But the conversation and differences behind how you do it. So it's incredibly disingenuous, it's incredibly rude, and it's just like you're kind of stifling the conversation by only creating discussion in terms of, okay, our opinion of Potter being XYZ, not good enough excuses, is the only right way, and if you don't fall into that way of thinking, you are against us and you are the issue with the club. This is what constantly happens every year. I do not understand this part of the sport yet. It actually baffles my mind. Now, me personally, yeah, when times get hard, that's when you tend to judge a man's character and his personality. And I think over the season, a lot of men are proving what they're really about and what their code is in their brain. Because I'm sorry, when all of us have platforms on socials, on channels, on, writing, XYZ, you might not like this, but responsibility comes with the role, yeah? When all of us have access to tens of thousands of people, you're constantly adding to the information train, and if all you're saying is constant negativity left, right and center, you end up fueling extremists. That is what happens when you don't have perspective. Because as I keep saying, and I think as we all know, yeah, most of us don't even care about Potter like that. It's just a respect, a baseline respect, that's it. If you got sacked next year, you're not going to be getting accounts crying out for Graham Potter. I speak to most people that constantly criticize him as well too, for tactical stuff, etc. And I guess the only reason why it seems like Potter has a defense task, that has this Avengers team behind him, defending him all the time, is to counter the incessant, silly, stupid, personal attacks that have nothing to do with football, where you're literally attacking the guy's quality because you just don't resonate with the fact that he isn't a stereotypical hard man in football. That's where it comes from. And it creates people who don't care as much to start looking like they care because they have to defend against this type of hateful, incessant rhetoric. Like, bro, sometimes I think to myself, like, us human beings are like such a dumb animal. Like, real talk, we are such a dumb animal. Like, we can all end up supporting the same things, the same religions, but and having the same type of views on it, but the minute you don't agree with one thing, my god, like all the nonsense that can come from that, it's actually disappointing. Personally, I think it's a massive disgrace, and it's really no surprise that something like this has eventually escalated to this situation. And for myself, where I've constantly communicated the fact that, listen, there's no fucking personal emotions with Graham Potter. It's not even like that for me. Like, I'm a Chelsea fan. We'll have another 5 managers over the next 10 years. That's how things get done here. But I'm telling you this straight though, due to all this non-stop negativity and hate against the guy, I want to see this guy win now, just to counter all these naysayers, all these doubters, and all these hateful figures, yeah? And I want to make sure before this point in the video ends, do not dare conflate criticism against hate. Do not do that. Do not bait yourself out that you don't understand what the message of this video is, yeah? We all know the difference between criticizing the tactics and the performances. Everyone can do that. But that's where it needs to stop. Don't pretend that you're not seeing those lines being crossed 24/7 and watching that hate evolve and evolve and evolve, getting more extremist. Let's not miss the point And let's not turn blind eyes to this situation. Obviously, incredibly disappointing to hear about this stuff with Graham Potter, and I'm not gonna lie, you guys, I think it's just honestly a very shameful situation. Right now, let's move on to the final point, and let's discuss Enzo Fernandez's interview that came out yesterday. Anyway, it seems like Enzo Fernandez was on media duties yesterday. For this video in particular, I'm going to be referencing the Times' article. I thought it was a very fascinating interview, getting some deeper insight behind Enzo, of course, in life at Chelsea right now, and the very important message that Enzo is putting out there to this fan base. Obviously, there's going to be a link to the article. Read it yourselves. Don't just blindly take my opinion. I'm not one of those content creators that needs that type of validation here. Inform yourself and obviously practice doing that, because that's the only way you can actually get to real opinions in this crazy internet age. Anyway, we start with things and we get some insight behind Enzo as a little youth, obviously saying that back in the day, back when he was younger, he would wake up alongside his dad having breakfast, drinking tea, watching Premier League games early in the morning. Obviously, massive time zone difference between South America and the Prem. And of course, players like Tevez, players like Kun Aguero, players like Higuain, these players captured his imagination. And that's what captured his interest in the Premier League. Naturally, his price tag became a topic of conversation. And here's what Enzo himself had to directly say. The amount of money that is paid has nothing to do with me. My job is to go out on the field and give my best at all times. Like, Enzo is that type of leader, type of character, where it's quite obvious that those figs and stuff, he doesn't care. That doesn't faze him. He doesn't feel pressure by that. And I absolutely love that. Enzo mentions that the past 3 years in his life has been an absolute roller coaster where there's been constant progression after progression after progression. Escalating in him, obviously signing for us, only being at Benfica for less than 6 months. We got some insight behind Enzo and obviously that famous Argentina World Cup win, saying that he completed like a life goal, dream and goal of playing alongside Lionel Messi. For me, the greatest player to ever do it. I think that World Cup most definitely cemented that. And for Enzo, to be a kid that watched this guy growing up, of course they revered Messi, rightfully so, in Argentina. And obviously it's quite mad that someone like him that literally just got into this Argentina setup is getting prep talks and getting support from one of the legends he respects. I think that's absolutely mad. But we now move on to Enzo and life at Chelsea Football Club, and I really liked what he had to say. And we start off by discussing him and Joao Felix's budding bromance at this point in time. We're seeing all the clips and the jokes and the banter. And here's what Enzo had to say about his friendship with Felix. When you get on with someone off the field, it helps on the field to have that special connection. He's a great player, isn't he? A fantastic player. He's got lots of ability, loads of qualities. He's a key player for us, an important player, and he's on loan. Let's hope that Chelsea can do all they can to keep hold of him come June. That would be great. And you'd like to think that with these two potentially having some incredible dynamics together over the years, we need to do everything we can to sign Joao Felix. I just knew that when we get this guy on loan, what the future could potentially hold. And these two combining and continuing that friendship and relationship over the years, I think the greatest example I've saw of that type of dynamic was MSN, Messi, Neymar, Suarez. But the fact that not only were they all like proper close boys, but that kind of just came off on the football pitch as well too, because their dynamics together and understanding, I think is probably the best I've ever seen in my life in terms of like a front three. But I guess the most telling and important part, one of the titles of the video today, is Enzo Fernandez speaking directly to the fans, calling for patience. And here's exactly what he had to say. My message would be to the fans, trust the players, trust the backroom staff, trust the manager, because we are all moving in the same direction. We have got a lot of new faces here, and it's a restructuring of the club, really, and the playing staff. I would encourage them to be patient. We know it's a tough standard, but we've all been given all the tools we need by the coaching staff and manager here. It's just a case of being patient, and we will get to know each other. You hear in the final part, we will get to know each other. This is how football works. This is not FIFA where you can they'll instantly get team chem just like that. It doesn't work like that on the field. You cannot forget that aspect of the game. And unfortunately, the only thing that is needed is time. And we don't have a hyperbolic time chamber where we can put the team in for one day and they'll learn 5 months of team training and understanding. We can't do that. But for me, when the boards is communicating patience, when the manager is communicating patience, when the players are constantly communicating patience and good vibes behind the scenes, you can rightfully be annoyed by results. We all are. Like, why does this get forgotten all the time? No one is anyone. I've never seen someone happy about losing. But right now, I'm seeing nonsense about people hoping Spurs can beat us to prove a point about why they hate Graham Potter. Like, you see the distinction I'm trying to make here. But I guess this message directly from the players now is to those guys who have no faith and no hope. Trust the words that Enzo is speaking. If this was a gimmick, this guy wouldn't be here. So you guys, on that note, I'm Nini FC. This is BlueLionsTV. I'll see you guys tomorrow with some more content. Might do a watch along. Not too sure yet. I'll let you man know. Hope you guys have a good weekend. Touch grass. Have a good day. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. Cool.